All right. Well, welcome today, everyone. I'm so excited to have you meet this panel of people, and I've asked them to all be live on camera. So as I go through the introduction, you'll have a chance to meet them visually as well. What we want to do today is focus on the importance of partnerships. The partnership that we have with business, the partnership that we have with our community partners, and how we all work together to support the success of individuals like Rhett, and how important that is to work across that whole spectrum and to continue to bring what we all can to the table to support our business customers and our individual customers. This session, you'll be able to hear from each one of the partners here in terms of their story. How did they contribute to the partnership? And then Rhett is going to wrap us up with his career journey and where he's going. He has a bright future, so I'm excited to have you all meet Rhett. But I want to start by introducing everyone on the panel and talking a little bit about our role. I'm Kathy West Evans, and I'm the Director of Business Relations for the National Employment Team at CSAVR. That's a mouthful. It's the Council of State Administrators of Vocational Rehabilitation. So it's the leadership of the 78 VR agencies across the country. We've got a strong leadership team in Texas. You're going to meet Melinda. She's got a great director, Cheryl, and that's part of this whole partnership here. But we work together across the country to support our business customers. And it may be a partnership that's driven nationally down to the local and the state and local level, or it could be a partnership that's driven like this one, where you had a great local partnership that then was driven to the national level. And we've been able to take the model that was developed with Dell and the VR team and Arc of the Capitol in Texas and actually start to recruit nationally. So it's exciting to see that. So I want to introduce you to the members of the panel. Danielle Biddick is a super awesome person. That's the personal note. They're all awesome. Danielle is the Senior Advisor for the Diversity Talent Acquisition Team at Dell Technologies. And Danielle, some of you may have met her. She worked with us on the Microsoft program and was our community partner that provided the life coaching at Microsoft, and then moved to HP. And then Dell was brilliant. They hired her there to lead their team. So you're going to hear from Danielle, and it's so exciting always to work with her. And then we have Melinda Paninsky. She is the Specialist for Workforce Alliance for the Texas Workforce Commission. That's the name of the VR agency in Texas. And she's also our net point of contact. And Melinda, again, great partner, and really reaches out and collaborates at a state and local level as well as nationally. And we're also joined by Amber Nelson, and Amber is that critical local partner. She's the Director of Employment and Education at the Arc of the Capitol area in Texas. And Amber is really the team that coordinates and delivers boots on the ground support. So always key to think of, again, that level of how we're going national, state, and local. So we're meeting the business where they're at and supporting the wonderful candidates that they've got and the people that they hire. And with that, we've got Rhett Calvert. Rhett is a data analyst for the Global Inventory Management Team for Dell Technologies. He has had an incredible journey, and I'm excited for you to hear from Rhett. So with that, we're going to start with Danielle, then move to Melinda and Amber, and wrap it up with our rock star, Rhett Calvert. Danielle, turning it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathy. And hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here to speak with you today. As Kathy mentioned, I'm Danielle, and I program manage Dell's neurodiversity hiring program. And so I'll just kind of set the stage here by providing as high level as I can of an overview of the program. And with that, I'll try to touch on how and why the program started, the way in which it's run, the supports that we provide to both employees and managers, and then also the ways in which we're continuing to grow and scale the program to bring in even more exceptional talent, just like Rhett. So the program started in 2018, and it was originally a grassroots effort that was led by some of our True Ability ERG members And our True Ability ERG is an employee resource group that's focused on individuals with disabilities. It's comprised of parents, people with disabilities themselves, family members, friends across the board. And it's really just designed to support that community within Dell. And so they tapped our talent acquisition team on the shoulder and essentially asked the question, can we develop a program that is focused on hiring neurodivergent talent? So we joined forces and hit the ground running with putting together a business case that really called attention to the need for us to leverage this untapped talent pool. And just to provide some perspective there, roughly 60% of autistic adults have average or above average intelligence, yet approximately about 85% of them are unemployed or underemployed. And we attribute that in large part to the traditional interview process being very limiting for some individuals and not allowing them to fully showcase their true skills or potential. But what we know is that neurodivergent team members have incredible strengths to offer to our organization, including strong attention to detail, commitment to quality and consistency, super creative thinking styles, and ultimately lower turnover rates. So in order for us to really leverage those skills and strengths, we needed to better understand some of the barriers that were inhibiting neurodivergent job seekers from making it past that first door. And so with that, we developed an alternative interview process. And we facilitate that alternative interview process in partnership with our 3 community partners, Neurodiversity in the Workplace, HMEA, which is based in Massachusetts, and then the Arc of the Capital Area, who we have Amber here with us today to speak to, and that's based in Central Texas. So that alternative interview experience is really designed to provide a more person-centered approach to hiring, and it focuses on the candidate's skills. So we do that by inviting candidates to come in and showcase those skills in a different way, essentially to do it in action over a 2-week period. So during that 2 weeks, they're offered a series of professional development courses that are designed to better prepare them for the corporate environment and give them the opportunity to practice things like their elevator pitch so that they feel more comfortable going into engagements with managers. And then we also set a lot of expectations around what those engagements with managers will look like so that they're much more structured and supported throughout the entire process. And with that, candidates have given us feedback that it's a lot less of an anxiety and provoking experience than a traditional interview would be. And then the true bread and butter of the alternative interview experience is that candidates are given a chance to work on real world projects, both individually and in groups. And that provides our hiring managers with a much fuller picture of how these candidates would potentially work on their team, the ways in which they solve problems, their preferred learning style. And with that, managers can make a really confident decision on whether or not this would be a good opportunity for the candidates. And so those that are selected are given the opportunity to intern with us for a 12-week period, and then that has the potential to lead to full-time employment opportunities. And so far, we have about a 93% conversion rate from internships to full-time employment, and then that we've hired into full-time opportunities. So far, we have 100% retention rate, which is fantastic. So that piece covers the alternative interview process, and I'm sure we can go into a lot more about how that's all facilitated, but that gives you a high level idea of what it looks like. And now I'll go into the ecosystem of supports that we offer to candidates once they're actually in the door. So first of all, job coaching support. Some call it life coaching, some call it career coaching. There's a variety of different terms for it, and I'll let Amber really spend most of her time touching on what that looks like, but I will say that it is a critical component of our program. It is a really great way for employees and managers to transition into their working relationship together. It also provides a lot of support on the front end so that candidates are getting into the organization, feeling comfortable, asking the right questions, and really being prepared to start their full-time careers. And in addition to that, we also offer other support people across the organization that are actually Dell employees. So in partnership with our True Ability ERG, people actually volunteer to provide mentorship opportunities to some of our employees. And they provide more of that Dell cultural perspective. So our employees can go to them to ask random questions about things like benefits or even things like acronyms. And they're there as a really good support person for them to network with other people across the company and they can really support them much beyond their internship. So if they're hired into full-time employment, I know some folks that have been engaged with their mentors for years and years past when they were first hired, which is really the goal of what we're trying to do by developing these types of support relationships. And then another really important piece of the supports that we offer is to managers, and that's with training. We provide a training that is designed to really demystify some stereotypes and provide more information on what neurodivergence is, and then some best practices and tips to best support some of the employees. And what I love about the manager training is that a lot of the time managers provide feedback that whether or not they're even managing someone who's neurodivergent, they feel like the training makes them a better people leader because they have a new understanding of how to effectively communicate. And some of the tips and tricks that we provide to them actually work for all employees, just not just neurodivergent employees. And lastly, we also offer our interns a variety of different events that they can participate in that are focused on professional development and give them other networking opportunities to get connected to other interns and team members across the company. So that piece touched on some of our ecosystem of supports that we offer to the candidates that we bring through the door. And again, I'm going to let Amber kind of touch more on what that job coaching piece looks like because she's the expert. And now I'll just quickly talk about the ways in which we have grown over the years and where we're headed from here. So I mentioned that we started in 2018, and it's important to point out that we started really small. We started with just 3 hires, and we did that in a classroom style setting in our Massachusetts offices. And after the success of that iteration of the program, we decided to expand to Texas, which is where the Arc of the Capital area came in. So in the second year of hosting the program, we hired 4 times as many people. And then after that, we were just ready to go. We were looking at hiring an even bigger group in the following year, but the pandemic had other plans for us. So we paused and we reevaluated our options. And with that, we decided to redesign the program so that it could be facilitated completely virtually. And with that, we had a lot of really great lessons learned and experiences that have driven the way that we are now facilitating the program. One of which being the national recruitment strategy. Prior, when we were hosting more of that classroom style setting for the alternative interview experience, we were only bringing in candidates from the states that we were hiring in, both Massachusetts and Texas. Whereas now we've actually expanded to more of a national strategy where we're looking at hiring people remotely all across the US. And with that, we've had a lot of really great talent come through the door. So it's been a big learning lesson there that hiring remotely allows us to bring in even more people. And with that, we also have learned from feedback that our candidates have given us that they actually, a lot of them, not all of them, prefer to work from home because they feel more productive, less distracted by either auditory or visual distractions that may happen in a traditional office setting. And they also report back that the interview experience felt a lot less anxiety provoking because they were in the comfort of their own homes and they weren't as worried about things like making eye contact with hiring managers. So we've grown in regard to the way that we facilitate the interview process, but we also have grown as far as the roles that we offer through the program goes. We are now hiring people into a number of different positions, whether it be in finance, marketing, supply chain, cybersecurity. Our goal is to really continue to expand across the organization so that we're not trying to necessarily pigeon people into roles, but find the talent and then find a good opportunity for them within our organization. And now that we've had such great success up until this point with summer internship opportunities, we've decided to not just stop there, and we're actually gearing up to launch a multi-pathway approach to hiring neurodivergent candidates. So in just a couple of weeks here, we're going to be launching a program where we hiring folks into full-time positions at a number of different career levels because we understand that there's a lot of great talent out there that aren't just recent college grads. So we're really excited to see how that goes. And I think it'll provide a lot of opportunity for us to just continue to expand the program with the goal being that it will become more ingrained into the way that we just hire people across our organization. So that is my high level overview of the program. And I'm going to pass it over to Melinda to talk about the work that she does in partnership with all of us.
Thanks, Danielle. That is a great example of all the great work that Dell is doing and has done over the years. So through the Vocational Rehabilitation Program within Texas, we had the fortunate opportunity to be connected with Dell through other partnerships we had with businesses like Microsoft and SAP. They were doing similar programs. And as Danielle said, they had just operated a small class in Massachusetts, and said they wanted to expand to Texas. So they had some things in mind when they came to us. They knew what worked there and maybe some ways they wanted to improve it and do things a little differently. So the key for us in VR was meeting the business where they were. It wasn't about us coming to Dell and saying, prescriptive wise, this is what you must do to hire people with disabilities. Given they had some experience, we listened to what they had experience in, what their interests were, and looked to develop something like that alongside them in the Round Rock area. And as Danielle said, the first program was very specific to that area. So we looked, VR provides services through our contracted providers. And at the time, we did not have the Arc of the Capitol as a contracted provider, but because of some interest and experience that Dell had with other ARCs and their model, we worked with the ARC to get through the contract system and be a vendor of ours so that they could provide that service with the VR funding to support individuals that were accepted into the program. So a little logistics negotiating on the side. Not just anyone can be a provider through the vocational rehab program, but we certainly wanted to, find something that met the business need, the model that they had in mind. So once we had all of the big pieces in place, it was then a matter of looking at the candidate pools and looking specifically in that Central Texas Round Rock area to say what applicants are interested. VR provides services to individuals with disabilities related to an employment goal that they've established for themselves. So looking at the caseloads that the VR counselors had in that area to say who has a vocational interest in whatever the career field was, and can we support them? Would they be interested in this type of program? And as Danielle said, it was an in-person training. So we needed to make sure those individuals could be there in person for the 2 weeks of training assessment that was going to take place. And then ultimately be able to live in that area when they were in person doing the work. So working with our staff to determine that, we found the candidates that they were looking for. And actually a couple of folks came to Dell that we didn't originally have in our system, but because they were interested and they were an individual with a disability looking to go to work, they became eligible for the VR program, and we could then start working with them with this particular program in mind. So those individuals were identified, and we contracted, as I said, with the Arc of the Capitol to provide those intent services, and those individuals work to do that. We also have in the state a very strong focus on neurodiversity ourselves. We have a specialist at our state office who helps train some of those staff around the state to know how to provide services specific to these individuals, and to create these kind of opportunities as they move with businesses and other community partners around the state. So we had staff that are very focused on this particular population of individuals. So it was great. We have that as a resource if the ARC or Dell ever needed those staff as a resource to work with this population. But as you heard Danielle say, they had a lot of great experience already, and especially when they brought Danielle on board and some of the experience she had in her previous role before coming there. So when the contracted services are provided, our counselors really take a back seat in supporting the individual to be successful in the program, looking at the services they need. Maybe there's some services they need even outside of the internship that they've been accepted to for the program, and they work with their individual counselor on what those services are. So the services don't have to just be related to the work they're doing at Dell. They can be supplemental services that are creating an opportunity for that person to be successful. So the counselor and the individual have that relationship and support system with one another. And then obviously the ARC is there providing the services, they're touching base with the counselors, providing updated reports and feedback on how the individual is doing. So those are overall the role of VR. Ultimately, as I said, it's really about meeting the business where they are. Some don't have the experience that Dell had. So our goal then with those individuals is to give them examples and program ideas of what they could do within their business. So you don't have to be a business with the big picture in mind. You can be someone who just has an interest and a desire to want to grow these opportunities. And we certainly want to walk alongside you and help you grow them as well to meet each individual business need. So related to Rhett specifically, his counselor, in Nicole Redu in the Houston area, she supported Rhett in some other areas while he was attending Texas Tech. You'll hear more about that. Some of the programs he had related to school, they were walking alongside him, supporting him, as well as then when he came into the Dell internship. And we just have seen nothing but growth in each individual that took part in this program, but especially in Rhett. And I think Rhett, she's going to be sad to see you go at some point from her caseload. She was excited to work with you and all the opportunities that she's been able to see you grow in. So the VR program really is about meeting the individual who's come to us looking for employment, meeting them where they are in their skill set and their interest, and then also the business need at saying which businesses are you, where do you want to grow, and how can we bring those two together and create these opportunities like the Dell Neurodiversity program. When the Dell program expanded beyond the borders of Texas, we were a little sad because we couldn't no longer just look at Texas candidates, but we also were very happy because we do love to share the great partnerships that businesses have created. And we then reached out as Dell was getting applicants from other parts of the state or other parts of the country, sorry. They were able to connect the VR agencies to us, and we were giving them insight on how we supported the program funding-wise, structure, and so forth. And they were able to then replicate some of those services with the Arc of the Capitol directly, because that wasn't a provider, obviously, they had been working with in their state, but they wanted to support the individuals who had been accepted into the program from their state. So that was a great way of putting into practice what the National Employment Team really does, is bringing businesses to VR candidates from anywhere in the country to help them meet their needs and support as best we can based on our individual structures. So that's a lot about, you've heard from Dell, you've heard from the VR program and how it's funded and supported, and individual counseling is given to the candidates that participate. I have the privilege of passing it off to Amber, who I consider to be the boots on the ground person, providing that support through the Arc of the Capitol to individuals once they're participating. So Amber?
Thank you so much, Melinda. We're very excited to be a part of this. And as you heard from Danielle and Melinda, it very much is a support system that touches in a lot of different people. And that's why it's successful. When Texas Workforce Commission and Dell approached us about this program, we were really excited. Our mission and our goal in our organization is to provide an independent lifestyle to whatever level that individual wants. And part of that is acquiring a job. And just as Danielle said, oftentimes individuals who are neurodiverse can't get past that interview process because the interview process is typically a social aspect, not a skill-based aspect. And our candidates that we were sourcing had an amazing skill set, great background, education. They just couldn't get past that interview process. So when Dell came in and said, hey, we really want to do this uninterview process, we were thrilled because that gives so many more people an opportunity to further their careers and show the benefit of having neurodiverse individuals in their organization. So we were excited to jump on. We quickly worked with Texas Workforce Commission and Melinda and her team to get vetted and make sure that we had the right education, the right qualified career coaches to be able to provide the services. And then we worked with Dell to help set up the program in this area and kind of get that going as well. As Danielle said, we did our first round in a classroom setting, and then year 2, COVID hit, and it was let's figure out how we could do it virtual like everything else. And it was a great opportunity to see how many people enjoy that in-home setting because they felt more comfortable in their space. So watching the program grow over time has been pretty amazing. With our career coaches, what we do is we provide them a diverse amount of training for neurodiverse individuals. So they learn about autism supports, they learn about ADHD supports and other neurodiverse mindsets in order to help provide the best support they can. They work with our managers in-house to learn how to provide support to managers on site as well too. What part of the success of the program is that, and Danielle spoke about this earlier, is that the managers receive training up front and then they receive ongoing support throughout. So our career coaches have tons of training beforehand and as they continue their process. And then as far as the way that the structure is set up, the way it started was we've helped provide recruitment for individuals who were neurodiverse to enter the program. Then we helped vet them to make sure they had the proper skill set, the proper education to participate in the cohort. And then when those individuals were chosen, they were invited to the cohort, the 2-week cohort. And with that, that was an in-classroom setting where we supported in training, education, networking, all those things that could be social aspects and they might have questions with them. We were there to support them on site. Once they were approved for their interview or approved for their internship, we helped them transition into the internship. We provided weekly supports in the beginning with them, where our career coaches would go in, they would speak with the individual at their job location, talk about things from anywhere from how are they sleeping at night, how is their work-life balance, to, hey, I have a question about how to interact with this person I'm struggling with, or I need to tell my manager I need a week off, how do I go about that? They were there to help support in those conversations. They were there as a person to bounce ideas off of as far as employment goes. And if they needed help navigating the system, they were also an extra support talking to the managers and the recruitment team at Dell. Then the career coaches would meet with the managers on a bi-weekly to monthly basis, depending on what the manager's needs were. They would speak to them about how the individual's doing, how they felt like they were doing as a manager. And then also they would talk to them about what they want to see from the individual in the future. During the internship, the interns are required to do a project. And so they also discuss how they're doing the project, what supports they might need during that project, and share what some of the interns wanted them to share with the managers. And then on our side, we work closely with the Texas Workforce Commission, Vocational Resource Counselor, Rehabilitation Counselor, in order to make sure that there were those supports there to help fund the individual who was going through the internship to make sure they could have a continued career coach available. Our program was super successful and we were able to hire on, Dell was able to hire on a group of individuals that first time that the ARC of the Capital Area participated in it. And as they were hired on, we were able to help transition them into employment. Going from internship to employment can be a difficult process. And so we were able to help that transition, help those conversations that might happen, help understand, the difference between an internship and working with a career at Dell. And so that was super beneficial as we started with weekly conversations, then we went to bi-weekly, then we did 6 months of monthly, and then we phased off. At this point, those individuals who went through the first cohort with us, we meet a couple times throughout the year just to touch base and say, hey, as a group, but if they need something, they can always reach out to us. We're always available to them. If they reach out to Danielle or anybody at Dell, they can reach out to us as well. They're always in our pocket to help out. This last round with the virtual setting, we were able to support, again, people across the country. And we had individuals all the way from North Carolina to California. And so just navigating the difference in time was important, but everybody, again, was successful in going to this virtual setting and being successful as an intern and then transitioning to employment. And so it really takes having agility in the program and making sure you can support the needs of many, but being able to make it a holistic approach. And that's been super successful for us to be agile but holistic in what the needs are. extremely proud and extremely excited how well the program has gone, and the next step that Dell and Danielle have in store for neurodivergent candidates. And we're excited to see where that continues to grow. I'm very excited. We worked with Rhett during the first virtual cohort, and he did fantastic. He was a standout leader in the group. So I'm very excited to introduce Rhett to you guys today.
Thank you, Amber. As you have heard from everybody there, I am Rhett Calvert. I am a graduate from Texas Tech under a major of computer science. And my story starts then in Texas Tech, where I was working with a group called CASE, Connections for Academic Success and Employment. This team, I would say, worked with people like me in order to focus a little less on studies, because that's what the disability benefits were for, and more on the job section of disability benefits, to where they would support prepping, job prepping. They would support interviews. They would help search for things that can get somebody, people in neurodiversity, to actually get a boost up in job life, because it is so hard for people like us to actually get a foothold in life. And thankfully, my advisor in that CASE program, named Amy Prowse, managed to find this work program from the Arc of the Capitol. And with the help of Nicole Rideau, who was my TWC advisor throughout that entire situation as well, they were able to come into contact. I was able to get an interview, and I was accepted. It was the first thing I was accepted for any of these kinds of things for quite some time. But it did get scary at a certain point because of the whole pandemic happening. There actually was like a second wave of selections that happened due to the limited sources they had to do because of this sudden transition into our virtual program, in this virtual program, because it wasn't virtual originally. But even then, I still somehow managed to get into the program, and that was a life changer for me, honestly, because I definitely wouldn't have got, because if it weren't for Amy getting me into that, I would definitely not be here today, because it was definitely a much nicer situation to be able to just do a project. We had to make a project to where, through research, we had to decide whether or not it was a good idea for a company that was infamous for the Titanic to be brought out of the ashes. We agreed no. And through that, I was actually able to learn a lot of things about myself. I have always had a knack for data, but one thing I learned was I actually did have something of a knack for project management. They assigned me as one of the project managers, and I made sure, and I had to lead a group of people very similar to myself, and had to make sure everyone was on track, as well as had to make some very difficult conversations sometimes. It was exciting, yet a bit scary, especially after we were done. I felt good at the end. I felt confident, but it wasn't really until Christina Haas, who was the person who has kind of been with me throughout that entire work program, was able to contact me and say, "Hey, you got the internship." That was a pretty joyous day for me, not gonna lie, because I also just got done. I just got released from another job that I didn't like at all. So being able to get into an internship for a job that I really wanted was quite a happy feeling that I was really needing at the time. So that's when I started my work with Marcelo Fortunato in an analysis situation where I have to read up and basically an error list and organize and report said errors. And I was apparently liked so much that the 3-month internship got extended up to 8. Because I had a difficult time trying to transition into somewhere else. But if it weren't, but my manager, man, he was a really good manager. He was able to connect me to even more people with the help of Danielle, and we were finally able to find a open slot in the global inventory management team. And after that interview, I have been able to transition there, and I've been here ever since. I've hit 3 months just recently, and it's been going pretty well. It's been quite the journey, and we'll say that.
It's really great to hear the adventure. A couple of quick questions, because when we earlier we heard great things about the vision of your family and the support of your parents. And I think that is so important for everyone to understand. It sounds like they really supported your dreams, your career aspirations at a young age. And could you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I will say I figured this would be coming into the questions, which is why I waited till now. My parents were an extremely important point in my career path. And I will say to anyone watching this is extremely important if you have a kid with disabilities of any kind. You need to walk a fine line between knowing when you have to help and support your child with disabilities and when you need to let them walk on their own. Because I have seen both sides. I have seen people who don't treat their kids differently, that don't treat their kids at all, and those kids struggle just because there are things that they need that they're not getting. Like I am told I have a great mind, but I do not work that quickly. So when it comes to like time tests and stuff, if I'm not getting any sort of benefit, I'm usually in a serious problem. And that's why it took me a little while longer to graduate than others. That being said, I've also seen the opposite problem where I have a really close friend who was also part of the CASE program. She's a great person and all, but I feel like her parents were just a little too cautious on her. And I feel like that affected her growth in a slightly negative way. I think she's developing pretty well now, but she wasn't quite treated as an adult when she was an adult. It's a situation at hand that we're still people. Like that's a really important thing to remember, is like we're still people. We still grow up. We still have dreams, hopes, stuff like that. We just need to work about it slightly differently. But that keyword is slightly, because if you go too far in that, then we're not going to get the growth we need. And my parents were very good with that. They made sure I had the benefits I needed. But that doesn't mean I would be treated very much different from anybody else. I would still be going to the same classes. I'd be still getting the same kinds of grades, the same kinds of bonuses as everybody else. The only differences really is just extended amount of time, maybe a tutor, but that's about it. And even then, I think everybody needs tutors. Tutors are really useful. But yeah, in general, I just think it's really, you should still be a parent to your child. Just know to give them the help they need.
Well, those are such key life lessons, Rhett. Thank you for sharing those, and hats off to your parents for really supporting your success, but also letting you have your own wings. So it sounds like there are people that have really recognized your skills and abilities and supported your career, and that's awesome. You talked a little bit earlier about another job that you left to come to Dell. And it made me wonder, Rhett, what are the supports at Dell that make you feel different as an employee? I mean, you talk about the supports that an individual needs, and we all learn and work differently. But what's so special about Dell's model?
I'll tell you what's special about Dell's model. I have room. I have a bit of my own personal space. I have my own time. I have my own time to do things. When we're given things to do, we are expected to do them, yes, but we're not. They're not forced down our throats. Like I said, the job I was in, it was a part-time seasonal job that I was really only doing because I needed the cash. I needed the cash really bad, and I wasn't good at that job. I wasn't good at that job at all. My company, that company and I had a mutual agreement that I had to go. Like it was getting to that point. So yeah, when it comes to Dell, just having a bit more of a slightly more relaxed environment, even the slightest bit more relaxed makes all the difference, because the environment I was in was an absolute nightmare before. Okay, hang on.
That's great. So Danielle is asking if you can, Danielle, come up on camera. What's the name of camera for this Q&A? Because I want to ask you all a question about your lessons learned, but it sounds like Danielle wants to cue you up.
Yeah, I was just curious, Rhett, if we can hear a little bit about what your experience was like working with both Christina Haas, who is a part of the Arc of the Capital area. She was your aligned job coach, career coach. And then similarly, what your experience was like working with Natalie, your community mentor, who I know is still in touch with you because she just reached out to me recently.
She is still in touch with me. Not as often. Not as often, but we're still in touch. Yes. So with Christina, she's been with me since the start of the work program. And she was a very good emotional support, honestly, when things got, because as much as I really enjoy my job, it wasn't all nice and clean throughout. No job is. So she was a very good, she was definitely a good mental support. She was also very good with being able to talk to whenever I needed to talk about things that happened in my job, things I may want like some slight preparation for. And again, sometimes just some slight moral support. My talks with Christina aren't that long these days, but I still always enjoy talking with her because she's always able to cheer me up.
And
With
I think that
Natalie,
really that touches on exactly what Amber was saying and the approach that the Arc of the Capital Area takes with providing a lot of support up front and then slowly fading back on that support once you're feeling more comfortable and great with your job. So I love to hear that.
Now, Natalie Churchill, she was my Dell mentor. So she's been my mentor within Dell. And she has been supporting me since my internship. We started out weekly. We actually started out 2 times a week, brought it down to once a week, brought it down to bi-weekly, and then we brought it down to monthly, which we're probably just going to stay at from now on. And her goal for me is to just make sure I can successfully thrive for Dell. Whether that be as simple as having a moment to talk about strengths and struggles that I had within Dell, much like how I do with Christina, or to have small exercises such as filling out my profile. That's kind of how it is recently, is prepping myself for the long future. It's been, and yeah, so she's still with me and we're still on this journey, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
What a great story, Rhett. Thank you so much. And thanks for the cue up, Danielle. One of the questions that we hear is, what are the lessons learned? Danielle, can you kind of highlight what's the lesson you've worked in a role of support with Microsoft? You helped us with HP. Now you're at Dell. What are your lessons learned in the various roles that you play in and the great talent that's out there?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest lessons learned, and by far the most important, that I was able to recognize not only being a part of the business, but also being on more of that support end, is to listen to the community, to listen to the folks that you are bringing into your organization so that you can continue to reevaluate ways to improve your program. And that's something that we've tried to do a lot over the years, is to gather feedback from our folks that we hire on about how we can continue to leverage their feedback for continuing success. And then we also have been working with their managers to evaluate how to make small changes so that we are assessing talent to more accurately fit the roles that we're looking to fill. And to just continue to keep in touch with not only the folks that we've hired on, but the larger community, the larger neurodivergent community, so that we have an understanding of what can really drive progress in this space. Because I think ultimately we don't want to just have a program that's designed to do this. We want this to be a part of the way that we naturally hire people. And so as we continue to listen to the community, we continue to learn. So I think that's one of the biggest ones. Another is that executive sponsorship, when you're getting a program like this started, and community partnerships like we have with the Arc of the Capital Area, are crucial in fostering programmatic success. I think you really need that support within the organization to socialize a program like this and get the support from people leaders. Oh, there's and then similarly, to utilize your community partners like we have with the Arc of the Capital Area and HMEA, because like you have said before, they are the boots on the ground that are working with the candidates that we bring through the door. So those are a couple. I could keep going, but I'll save you.
Well, you certainly have been a great partner at the local, state, and national level, and we've all learned from you, and we'll continue learning. So we appreciate that. Any other comments about lessons learned? Amber, Melinda, Rhett?
I think I have one.
But go right ahead, Rhett.
Thank you, Melinda. I would say one of the lessons I've learned from that work program is don't be afraid to step out of the box. I had no idea I had any sort of skill, any sort of ability to take on project management, like at all. I did not think I would ever be even dreaming about saying like, hey, that position sounds like it would actually fit for me. And no joke, when I was assigned to that position in the program, in the project, I actually was like, wait, what like this must have been a mistake or something. And I mean, and there was someone else who thought the same thing and deliberately gave up the spot. But I was thinking to myself, they think I can do this, I gotta at least try. And after that, I'm like, I think I can do this. Like, I think it's something I can possibly do. Like way off in the future, obviously, definitely not currently, where I'm still just a lowly, newly hired analyst, but still, that does seem like something I might actually be able to do down the road.
That is a great comment, Rhett. Careers are a journey.
Mhm.
So believe in yourself. It sounds like this was a great fit. And hats off to Dell and the support team and hats off to you, Rhett, for going on that journey.
Thank you.
Great. Melinda, Amber, lessons learned.
Yeah, so I was going to follow suit just right along with Danielle, is that I think the key is one, leadership. You mentioned our director Fuller earlier. Our leadership in our own agency, we're a state government agency, federally and state supported. And so if our leadership didn't believe in these partnerships with businesses and community partners like the ARC, then we might be hindered somewhat in our ability to meet the business need and walk alongside them. So we have great leadership through our director, who then supports us through our upper leadership and our commissioners within the agency, who are all in for meeting the business need and connecting job seekers to these opportunities. So totally agree with Danielle's comment around leadership and around listening. We couldn't do what we do if we went into a business and said, well, this is how you have to do it. We really have to say, where are you in your journey? Where would you like to be? And what are the steps that we can take to help get you there? So I think that listening to our business partner, and then also recognizing our dual customer. We have individuals who come to us with varying disabilities. We're certainly focusing on neurodiversity in this program, but we have varying disabilities that we work with across the spectrum, and everyone has different dreams and goals and desires for their career in the future. So listening to them and where they're at, I think, is a lesson learned for us, because as Rhett made a comment, he didn't think he could be a project manager. Well, he was called out to do something he didn't think possible, but others did. So making sure that we are listening to our individuals about what their desires are career-wise and the training that they need to get there. So we definitely have to make those part of our lessons learned throughout this process, not assume any one person is going to follow the same path someone else did. So those are our two, I think, for sure.
Great comments. Amber?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us have said the same thing. Communication has been the biggest thing. We're kind of a middleman sometimes. So we talk to Danielle, we talk to Melinda's team at Texas Workforce Commission, we talk to the employee, such as Rhett, and just really making sure there's that open communication, understanding what the business needs, understanding what TWC needs, and then in the forefront of everything, really understanding what the employee needs. How can we support them? How can we help them? Where are they going in their career? And they sometimes, like Rhett, they might just be starting out and trying to figure that out. And sometimes they might have an idea, but helping them pursue that. So asking those questions: where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? How do we get you there? What supports do you need to get there, kind of thing. And I think just being open to information from other individuals. We work closely with a lot of our other community organizations such as the Autism Society and other organizations like that. And making sure we have great relationships with them is important, because those are the people also on the ground with specific individual disabilities that can really push out the information about the neurodivergent hiring program, and making sure that they understand, what the job skills are, what jobs are open, things like that, and really helping push Dell's initiative into our on the ground community. So I think those two things are super important from our side.
Well, and thank you for your support, Amber. I know that you've grown to support VR agencies outside of Texas, and we appreciate your willingness to grow with us. I think every one of you has really reflected on the whole title of this session, which was the dual customer approach partnerships that connect talent and business. And I think the key lesson here is that we need to be a team and support each other, where you're building a plan with Rhett and supporting him and his success as an individual, or you're working with Danielle and other business customers and really building a plan with them. There's so much talent out there, and there's so much opportunity. We're stronger when we're together around that. So I want to thank all of you